Erev Shabbos, Shabbos Agadol, Erev Shabbos before Pesach, and it's a little bit hectic. You ever have that situation you're trying to say something and and you're just not quite sure how to get the right word out? Obviously some people speak more fluidly and more fluently than others. Like that. They've done studies on that kind of hesitation and what effect it has not on the person talking, but on the person trying to listen. So they had listeners look at a screen containing pictures, some like common pictures like hands, and some containing uncommon pictures like igloos. And then they listened to people talking and sticking in those ums and ahs and things before the uncommon words, type A, and to people inserting before common words, type B. Because usually those ums and ahs are like a leap into an unknown or a not comfortable or something that's more than what you're just used to. So as listeners heard the type A kind of inserts of ums and ahs, the ones before new words or weird words, they focused looking at the uncommon pictures like igloos. When they heard the type B kinds of ums and ahs, the sort of ones that just come before normal words, they looked at the more common items. In other words, the listeners could sort of pick up ahead of time whether it was going to be a type A or a type B. If they could tell from the and the ah whether there was something earth-shattering coming along or whether it was just a hesitation. And it's almost like they know that when they hear the and the ah that signals a type A uncommon word, they're going to listen a little bit closer. I'm mentioning this to you because at the end of Parashat Tzav, this week's Torah portion, and that we're going to read tomorrow on Shabbos, there's the shalshelis, one of those special sounds in the trope that have only 4 appearances in the Torah. The other 3 are all in Bereshis. They all signify a sense of hesitation. There's a lot to be said about the commonality of them. I want to talk about it here specifically in the context of this week's Parsha. There are 3 shechtings taking place in the Parsha. When Moshe is inducting and sanctifying Aaron and his children into the role of priest, into the kahuna. And the word vayishchat, shecht, appears all 3 times, followed by vayikach Moshe and Moshe took, or vayizrak Moshe and Moshe cast blood. And on the first vayishchat, there's a special trope, which is a revi'i. On the second, there's an esnachta. And on the third, there's what's called the shalshelis. And going back to an ancient commentary, going back thousands of years to literally all the way back there is a comment from this Mesorah Gedolah that mentions that the sign for which 3 trops, what kind of order they come in, is Yashan, Yoshev, Oimed. Sleep, sit, stand. There's a transition. The Revi'i, which heads downward as a trope, is comparable to somebody sleeping. The second time there's a vayishchat and then there's an esnachta. It's like a flat pause similar to somebody sitting. And the shalshelis, with its drama, is like somebody standing. And to fully understand this, you have to add one more important fact in Hebrew grammar, that every time that there's a shalshelis, it's followed by something called a psik, a pause before moving on to the next word. So it seems like what we're being told is that there are 3 levels of transition. The revi'i is a pause before the next word, but like somebody who rolls through a stop sign, the break is not so distinct. It's comparable to somebody sleeping. The esnachta is a distinct break, but it's not that dramatic, and it's like somebody sitting. And the pasik after those shalshelis is like a dramatic break, and it's comparable to somebody standing. And maybe a message that we can take home from that is that we all have goals that we're trying to accomplish. And there are steps in accomplishing those goals. We reach step one and probably suffer some sort of setback or a pause. You know what? Same thing happens after step two. Finally, we get to the point where we reach this new high, this new shalshelis. What do we do then? We don't say mission accomplished and stop what we're doing. We take a slight pause and then we continue. We continue to build on what we accomplished, even when the drama is no longer. One of the services in the Beis Hamikdash was cleaning off the ashes of yesterday's sacrifices and offerings from the top of the altar. And Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch teaches us that the fact that today's service only begins with the removal of yesterday's service on the altar teaches us that there has to be a link to the past, but there also has to be a freshness in what we do today. You reach a high, that's great, but you don't stop there. Mi yamod b'har Hashem, mi yala b'har Hashem, and mi yamod b'mkum kadshoy. You can't just stand there. You need to keep moving further. And so let's acknowledge that life is full of ums and ahs. And they might seem very much like obstacles in the road, but really they're cues. They're cues to pay attention to what comes next, because the next step might not be dramatic per se, but it might very well be important. Wishing you to step lively, to step carefully, but to step firmly in your progression to achieving and becoming what it is that you feel most destined for, to accomplishing Hashem's purpose for putting you in this world. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom and a Geula Shlema from all your Mitzarim, from everything that's restricting and constraining you, including Pesach. Enjoy it. Shabbos Yom Tov.